They say money screams, but wealth whispers. When Eleanor Kingsley boarded Flight 402 to Zurich, she wasn't screaming. She was silent. Dressed in a faded hoodie and leggings, she looked like nobody exactly the kind of person Chief Stewardess Jessica Carmichael loved to bully. Jessica didn't just mistreat Elena. She laughed as she tossed Elena's carry-on, containing a prototype worth $3 million, straight onto the rain-soaked tarmac. She thought she had broken a poor woman's spirit. She didn't know that 9 minutes earlier, the acquisition paperwork had cleared. Elena wasn't just a passenger anymore. She was the owner, and the plane wasn't going to take off until the karma was served ice cold. The automatic doors of Chicago O'Hare's Terminal 5 slid open, blasting Elena Kingsley with a rush of stale air conditioning and the frantic energy of 1,000 travelers. She pulled the hood of her charcoal grey sweatshirt further over her forehead, adjusting the cheap sunglasses that hid eyes red from 3 days of sleepless negotiations. To the casual observer, Elena looked like a college student heading home for the holidays, or perhaps a tired mother trying to travel on a budget. Her leggings were non-branded, her sneakers were scuffed, and her hair was pulled back in a messy, functional bun. There were no diamonds on her fingers, no designer logos on her chest, but gripped tightly in her right hand was the handle of a nondescript black polycarbonate carry-on. It looked like something you could buy at a discount store for $50. In reality, the case was custom-lined with military-grade shock absorption foam. Inside nestled the Project Ether prototype, a microprocessor architecture that had been the subject of a bidding war between 3 governments. Elena wasn't just a traveler. At 34, she was the silent architect behind Kingsley Vanguard, a tech conglomerate that usually operated in the shadows. But today, she was stepping into the light even if nobody knew it yet. She checked her phone. A text from her lawyer, Robert Sterling, lit up the screen. The wire transfer is pending final clearance. The board has signed. Just waiting on the bank's timestamp. 10 minutes. Elena allowed herself a small, tired smile. She wasn't flying to Zurich for a vacation. She was flying to sign the physical documents that would finalize her acquisition of Aurora Airways. The very airline she was about to fly. She had chosen to fly commercial undercover for a reason. Aurora had been bleeding money for 5 years. Customer satisfaction was at an all-time low. Shareholders blamed the economy. Elena suspected it was the culture. She wanted to see it for herself, from the perspective of a nobody in economy class, before she fired the executive board. She approached the check-in counter. The line for first class, priority, was empty. The line for economy snaked back toward the entrance. Elena, holding a ticket for seat 34B, joined the back of the queue. Whatever patience she had packed was about to be tested. 10 minutes passed. The line barely moved. At the counter, 2 Aurora Airways agents were chatting, ignoring the growing line of frustrated passengers. One of them, a woman with a tightly gelled blonde bob and a name tag that read Patricia, was scrolling through her phone, laughing at a video. "Excuse me," a man in front of Eleanor called out. He was elderly, leaning heavily on a cane. "Could we get some help? I've been standing here for 20 minutes. Patricia didn't even look up. She held up a finger, finishing her text message, before sighing loudly. She tapped the microphone. "We are experiencing a system update. Patience is a virtue, folks." Eleanor watched the interaction closely. It wasn't a system update. She could see the screen from where she stood. It was on the standard login page. They were just stalling. "Unbelievable," the old man muttered, shifting his weight painfully. Elena stepped forward gently. "Sir, why don't you lean on my suitcase for a moment? It's sturdy." The man looked at her, surprised by the kindness. "Bless you, young lady. I'm just worried I'll miss the connection." "You won't," Elena said, her voice dropping an octave, carrying a strange authority. "I'll make sure of it." Finally, the line moved. When Elena reached the desk, Patricia looked her up and down, her eyes lingering on the scuffed sneakers and the messy hair. The judgment was instantaneous and visceral. "Passport," Patricia snapped, extending a manicured hand with long crimson nails. Elena handed it over. "Kingsley." Patricia read the name flatly. She typed it in chewing gum with an open mouth. "You're in 34B, back of the bus. Window shade is broken, by the way. Don't touch it." "That's fine," Elena said calmly. "I'd like to gate check this bag, please. It contains fragile equipment." Patricia glanced at the battered black carry-on. "That fragile looks like you pulled it out of a dumpster, honey. If it's too big, you pay the fee. $75. "It fits the dimensions," Eleanor said. "And I don't mind paying, but I need to ensure it's handled with care." "Look," Patricia leaned forward, dropping the customer service facade entirely. "You pay the fee, or you don't fly. I don't care what's in there. Could be your dirty laundry for all I care. Card." Elena took a breath. She could have pulled out her black Amex. She could have called Robert right then and had this woman fired before the transaction even cleared. But she needed to see how deep the rot went. She produced a standard debit card. "Here." Patricia snatched it, swiped it aggressively, and slapped the receipt on the counter. "Gate 12. Boarding in 5. Don't be late. I won't hold the door for you." Elena took her documents. "Thank you, Patricia. I'll remember your efficiency." Patricia rolled her eyes, already looking past Elena to the next person. "Yeah, whatever." "Next." Elena walked away, her heart rate steady, but her mind racing. This wasn't just bad service, it was hostility. If the ground crew was this bad, she shuddered to think what was happening at 30,000 feet. She checked her phone again. "Robert Sterling. Funds cleared. Counter-signatures required. 8 minutes until official transfer of ownership title." 8 minutes. She was walking down the jet bridge as a passenger. By the time the plane pushed back, she would own the plane. The cabin of Flight 402 smelled of stale coffee and industrial cleaner. Elena stepped onto the plane, clutching her black case. Standing at the entrance to the galley was the flight service manager. Her name tag, pinned perfectly straight on a uniform that was a size too tight, read Jessica Carmichael. Jessica was a striking woman, but her beauty was hardened by a sneer that seemed permanently etched onto her face. She was greeting the first-class passengers, mostly older white men in suits with a sugary, flirtatious warmth. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Henderson," Jessica cooed, touching the arm of a man in a grey suit. "Let me take your coat. Champagne before takeoff." "You're a doll, Jessica," Mr. Henderson grunted, moving past. Then Eleanor stepped up. Jessica's smile vanished instantly, replaced by a look of profound annoyance. She scanned Eleanor's hoodie, the lack of visible wealth, and the tight grip she had on her carry-on. "Boarding pass," Jessica demanded, blocking the aisle. Elena showed her the mobile ticket. 34B. "Economy is that way." Jessica pointed a thumb over her shoulder without looking at Elena. "And you need to check that bag. Bins are full." Elena paused. She glanced down the aisle. The overhead bins in economy were clearly wide open. The plane was only half boarded. "Actually," Elena said politely, "I can see plenty of space. And as I told the gate agent, this bag contains extremely sensitive medical equipment. I need to keep it with me." It was a lie. It was tech, not medical. But usually, medical equipment was the magic word to get crew to back off. Not with Jessica. Jessica laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "Medical equipment, in that piece of junk. What is it, a nebulizer from 1990? Look, sweetie, I don't make the rules. The bins are reserved for priority passengers." "That's not airline policy," Elena corrected her. The bins are first come, first served. Jessica stepped closer, invading Elena's personal space. Her perfume was overpowering, something floral and cheap. "Listen to me." She hissed her voice low so the first-class passengers wouldn't hear. "I decide what the policy is on this plane. I don't like your attitude. You look like trouble. Now hand over the bag, or get off my flight." Elena tightened her grip on the handle. "I am asking you politely to let me proceed to my seat. And I'm telling you," Jessica snapped, raising her voice now to draw attention, "that you are failing to comply with crew instructions, Captain." The cockpit door opened. Captain Derek Holloway stepped out. He was a tall man with silvering hair and the arrogant stride of a man who hadn't been told no in 20 years. He looked at Jessica, then at Elena. "Problem, Jessica?" Derek asked, his voice booming. "She's refusing to check her bag." "Captain," Jessica lied, smoothly playing the victim. "She's being aggressive. She shoved past me." Elena's eyes widened. "That is an absolute lie. I haven't touched her." Captain Derek didn't even ask for Elena's side of the story. He looked at the black woman in the hoodie and made his decision. "Ma'am, hand the bag to the flight attendant now. If you delay my takeoff by 1 more minute, I'm having the marshals drag you off." Elena looked at Derek. She memorized his face. Captain Derek Holloway. Employee ID. She glanced at his badge. 14922. "I will hand it over," Elena said, her voice turning icy calm. "But I want it noted that I have informed you the contents are fragile and valued at over $3 million. If it is damaged, Aurora Airways is liable." Jessica snatched the bag from Elena's hand. $3 million. Yeah, right. Probably full of knockoff purses. Jessica walked to the open cabin door where the jet bridge operator was standing. Usually gate-checked bags are tagged, and walked down the stairs to the ramp. But Jessica was angry. She wanted to perform. She wanted to humiliate this woman who dared to talk back. She didn't tag the bag. She stood at the top of the metal stairs of the jet bridge. Below, through the gap, the wet tarmac waited. "Oops," Jessica said, looking directly at Elena with a wicked grin. She tossed the bag. It didn't go down the slide. It didn't go to a handler. She threw it over the railing into the open air. Elena gasped, rushing to the window. She watched in slow motion as the black case tumbled 20 feet down. It hit the concrete with a sickening crack that echoed up to the jet bridge. The case bounced once, a piece of plastic shattering off it, before coming to rest in a puddle of oil and rain. "Oh no," Jessica said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Slippery hands. You should file a claim. I think the reimbursement rate is $20 per pound." Captain Derek chuckled, turning back to the cockpit. "Get to your seat, ma'am. Show's over." The other passengers were silent. Some looked horrified. Others, like Mr. Henderson in 1A, were chuckling into their newspapers, amused by the ruffian getting put in her place. Elena stood frozen. The prototype, the vibration sensors inside, would have recorded the impact. If the core was cracked, 3 years of work was gone. But strangely, Eleanor didn't scream. She didn't cry. She looked at Jessica. She looked at Derek's back. She looked at her watch. Rosa 0. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A single notification from her banking app. Transfer complete. Asset acquired Aurora Airways Holdings. Status majority owner. CEO. Elena slowly lowered her phone. She looked up at Jessica, who was now checking her makeup in a compact mirror, dismissing Elena entirely. "You really shouldn't have done that," Elena said. Her voice was no longer the voice of a passenger. It was the voice of a judge delivering a death sentence. Jessica snapped her compact shut. "Go sit down or I'm calling the police." Elena smiled. It was a terrifying smile. "Please," Elena said. "Call them. Call the port authority. Call the airport manager. In fact, call everyone, because we're going to need witnesses." Jessica frowned, confused by the shift in the woman's demeanor. "Excuse me." Elena reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out not a boarding pass, but a titanium business card holder. She extracted a sleek, black metal card. She held it up. "My name is Dr. Elena Kingsley, and as of—" She checked her watch. 30 seconds ago, I own this airplane, and I own the uniform you're wearing, and I own the job you're about to lose." For 3 seconds, the only sound in the cabin of Flight 402 was the hum of the auxiliary power unit and the soft rustle of a newspaper in first class. Then Jessica Carmichael threw her head back and laughed. It was a loud, performative sound designed to rally the audience of passengers against the crazy woman in the aisle. "Oh, this is rich," Jessica cackled, wiping a tear of mirth from her eye. She turned to the passengers in the first few rows. "Did you hear that, folks? She owns the airplane, and I suppose you're the Queen of England on weekends." Captain Derek Holloway didn't laugh. He looked annoyed. His takeoff slot was approaching, and he had a schedule to keep. He stepped fully out of the cockpit, towering over Elena. He crossed his arms, the gold stripes on his sleeves catching the cabin lights. "Ma'am," Derek said, his voice dropping to that dangerous, patronizing rumble he used on unruly drunks. "Impersonating an airline official is a federal offense. I don't know what kind of delusional episode you're having, or where you printed that little metal card, but you are done. You are off this flight. Now." Elena didn't blink. She didn't retreat. She simply held her ground, looking Derek dead in the eye. "Captain Derek Holloway," she said, reciting his name like she was reading a file. "Hired in 2008, promoted to captain in 2015, despite 3 HR complaints regarding anger management. You have a pension plan that vests fully in 18 months. You're currently flying a Boeing 737-800 tail number November 402, scheduled for Zurich." Derek's eyes narrowed. "How do you know my service record?" "Because," Elena said, her voice eerily calm, "I bought your personnel file 10 minutes ago, along with the rest of the company." "Enough of this garbage," Jessica snapped. She grabbed the interphone handset on the wall. "I'm calling the gate agent to get the police. You're going to jail, honey. Assaulting a crew member, disrupting a flight." "I haven't assaulted anyone," Elena corrected her. "But you just destroyed corporate property valued at $3 million. That's a felony, Jessica. And since I am the corporation, I will be pressing charges." Jessica sneered and keyed the mic. "Gate control, we need LEOs on board immediately. We have a disruptive passenger refusing to deplane and making threats." Eleanor took a slow breath. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone again. "Go ahead. Call the police. I want them here. But while they are coming, I'm going to make a call of my own." "Who are you calling?" Derek scoffed. "Your psychiatrist." Elena ignored him. She dialed a number from memory. It wasn't a public number. It was the direct red line to the Aurora Airways Global Operations Control Center, GOCC, in Dallas. She put it on speaker. The line rang twice. "Global Ops Director Thorne speaking," a gruff, authoritative male voice answered. The color drained slightly from Derek's face. He knew that voice. Marcus Thorne was the director of flight operations. Pilots went their whole careers without ever speaking to him directly. He was the god of the airline. "Marcus," Elena said clearly, "this is Elena Kingsley." There was a pause on the line. Then the tone of the director changed instantly. It went from commanding to scrambling. "Ms. Kingsley, my apologies. I didn't have your number saved yet. We just received the urgent memo from the board of directors regarding the acquisition. Congratulations. How can I help you? Are you in Zurich yet?" The cabin went deadly silent. Jessica, who had been about to speak, felt her throat close up. The hand holding the interphone started to tremble. No, Marcus. Elena said, her eyes locked on Jessica's terrified face. I'm not in Zurich. I'm currently standing in the forward galley of Flight 402 out of Chicago. I'm being prevented from taking my seat by Flight Service Manager Carmichael and Captain Holloway. Excuse me. Thorne's voice crackled with static and fury. Prevented? Is there a safety issue? There is now, Elena said. Ms. Carmichael just threw a piece of my personal luggage containing the Project Ether prototype off the jet bridge railing. She threw it 20 feet onto the tarmac. Intentionally. Captain Holloway witnessed it and laughed. She did what? Thorne roared. The sound was loud enough that Mr. Henderson in seat 1A flinched. Please tell me you're joking, Ms. Kingsley. I wish I were. The bag is currently sitting in a puddle of oil under the gate. I need you to do 3 things immediately, Marcus. Name them, Thorne said. 1, Elena said, holding up a finger. Ground this aircraft. Pull its clearance. Nobody goes anywhere. Done, Thorne said instantly. I'm flagging the flight plan now. ATC is being notified. 2, Elena continued. Send a push notification to every crew iPad on this vessel with the new ownership structure. It seems Captain Holloway doesn't believe I am who I say I am. He thinks I'm having a delusional episode. Sending now via ACARS and crew comm, Thorne replied. It should hit their devices in 30 seconds. And 3, Elena said, her voice dropping to a whisper that carried more weight than a scream. I want the station manager for Chicago O'Hare down here on the jet bridge with a damage assessment team, and I want the airport police, not to arrest me, but to take a statement for destruction of property. I'm on the other line with Chicago Station Dispatch right now, Thorne assured her. Ms. Kingsley, I am profoundly sorry. This is not how we intended to welcome our new CEO. We'll discuss the culture of this company later, Marcus. Kingsley out. She hung up. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. It was the kind of silence that happens after a car crash, before the screaming starts. Use this moment to look at the crew, Elena thought. Jessica was pale. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She looked at the phone in Elena's hand, then at the captain. Captain Derek Holloway was staring at his wrist. His Apple Watch had just buzzed. He pulled his iPad out of his flight bag with shaky hands. The screen lit up. A bright red banner across the top of his company email app read, Urgent Corporate Restructuring Notice. He tapped it. A photo of Elena Kingsley, the same woman standing 3 feet away in a hoodie, appeared at the top of the memo. To all flight crew and staff from Board of Directors, subject welcome our new CEO and owner, Dr. Elena Kingsley. Derek looked up. His arrogance was gone, replaced by the hollow, sick look of a man watching his pension evaporate. Ms. Kingsley, Derek stammered. I had no idea. The manifest, it just listed Kingsley. I didn't connect the dots. I thought... You thought I was nobody? Elena finished for him. You thought because I didn't have a diamond ring or a first-class ticket, I wasn't worth respect. You thought you could bully me. I was following the lead of my flight service manager, Derek said quickly, throwing Jessica under the bus without hesitation. She told me you were aggressive. And you believed her without asking me, Elena said. And you watched her throw my property off a bridge. You're the captain, Derek. You are the ultimate authority on this ship. Her actions are your responsibility. Jessica finally found her voice. It was high and shrill. I thought it was just carry on. It looked cheap. I didn't know it was valuable. You can't fire me for enforcing baggage policy. You didn't enforce policy, Jessica. Elena turned on her. Policy is to tag the bag and walk it down the stairs to the ramp agent. I know the manual. I read it last night. Page 42. Section C. Handling of gate-checked items. Nowhere does it say, yeet the bag into the abyss. Jessica trembled. I slipped. We'll see what the security cameras say, Elena said. Chicago O'Hare has cameras covering every inch of the tarmac and the jet bridge. At that moment, the sound of heavy boots echoed down the jet bridge tunnel. 2 Chicago police officers appeared in the doorway, followed by a man in a high-visibility vest, sweating profusely the station manager. "Is there a problem here?" the older officer asked. Jessica stepped forward, tears instantly springing to her eyes. She was going to try one last manipulation. "Officer, thank God! This passenger is threatening us. She's refusing to sit down and claiming she owns the plane." The officer looked at Eleanor. Then he looked at the station manager. The station manager, a man named Gavin Ross, pushed past the police. He looked at Eleanor, glanced at the photo on his clipboard, and turned pale. He practically bowed. "Dr. Kingsley," Gavin gasped. "I got the call from Dallas. I came as fast as I could." Jessica froze. The officer paused, hand on his belt. "You know this woman?" the officer asked Gavin. "Know her?" Gavin wiped sweat from his forehead. "She just bought the airline, officer. She signs my paycheck, and theirs." He pointed to the trembling crew. The officer raised an eyebrow and looked at Jessica. "So when you said a passenger was impersonating staff—" "She lied to you," Elena said calmly, "just like she lied to the captain." Elena turned to Gavin. "Gavin, my bag is on the tarmac, directly below us. I need it retrieved, now. And I need a secure room to inspect the damage. Flight 402 is cancelled." "Cancelled?" Derek cried out. "But we have 150 passengers. The connections—" Eleanor looked at the passengers watching the drama unfold. She raised her voice so the whole cabin could hear. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. This flight is cancelled because the flight crew is currently suspended, pending an investigation into gross misconduct and destruction of property. However," she paused, "I will be rebooking everyone on Lufthansa and United flights, leaving within the hour. First class for everyone available, and everyone on this plane is receiving a $5,000 travel voucher for your trouble. On me." A cheer went up from the back of the plane. Mr. Henderson in 1A looked stunned. Elena turned back to Jessica. "Now," Elena said softly, "let's go downstairs and see what you broke. And pray, Jessica. Pray that the processor creates a blue light when I turn it on. Because if it's red, you're going to be paying me back for the rest of your life." The rain had intensified, turning the tarmac into a slick grey mirror, reflecting the flashing lights of the airport utility vehicles. Elena stood under the shelter of the wing, the roar of nearby jet engines deafening. She didn't care about the noise. Her eyes were fixed on the black polycarbonate case lying in the puddle. Gavin, the station manager, retrieved it personally. He handled it like it was an unexploded bomb. He walked it over to Eleanor, his hands shaking slightly. "Here you go, Dr. Kingsley. I haven't opened it." Eleanor took the handle. The casing was cracked down the middle. A jagged fissure ran from the zipper to the wheel well. Mud and oil had seeped into the crack. Standing a few feet away, huddled under the overhang of the terminal building, were Jessica and Captain Derek. They were being watched by the 2 police officers. Jessica was hugging herself, her mascara running down her cheeks. She looked small now. The arrogance of the cabin was gone, washed away by the cold Chicago rain and the terrifying reality of her situation. "Open it," Elena whispered to herself. She unzipped the case. The sound was gritty dirt in the teeth of the zipper. She folded back the lid. The military-grade foam was damp. Nestled inside was the Project Ether unit. It looked like a complex, metallic cube, surrounded by delicate sensor arrays and copper wiring. Elena pressed the small power stud on the side of the cube. Usually it hummed, a soft, reassuring vibration. She pressed it again. Nothing. She looked at the diagnostic LED panel on the side. It flickered once. Red. Then it went dark. Elena felt a physical blow to her stomach. 3 years. 3 years of coding, of micro-soldering, of sleepless nights in the lab. This wasn't just a machine. It was the future of avionics navigation. It was the reason she had enough money to buy the airline in the first place. Is it okay? Gavin asked timidly. Elena slowly closed the lid. She stood up and turned to face Jessica. The look on Elena's face was so devastated, so coldly furious, that Jessica took a step back, bumping into the police officer. "It's dead," Elena said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the wind. "The core is shattered. The impact dislodged the primary sensor array." I can pay for it," Jessica blurted out, desperate. "I have savings. Deduct it from my check. Please don't press charges. I have a daughter." Elena walked over to her. She stopped 2 feet away, invading Jessica's space, just as Jessica had invaded hers on the plane. "You have a daughter?" Elena asked. "That's nice. I hope you teach her better manners than you have. I hope you teach her that you don't judge people by their shoes. I hope you teach her that kindness costs nothing, but cruelty can cost you everything." "I'm sorry," Jessica sobbed. "I'm so sorry." "You're sorry because I'm the owner," Elena said, shaking her head. "If I were just a student or a single mum or a nobody, you'd be laughing right now. You'd be bragging to the other stewardesses about how you put me in my place." Elena turned to the police officer. "Officer O'Malley, is it?" "Yes, ma'am," the officer replied, taking out his notebook. "I want to file a formal report for criminal damage to property. The item destroyed is a prototype quantum navigation processor. Value estimated at $3.2 million. I also want to file a report for theft." "Theft?" Jessica squeaked. "I didn't steal anything. You stole my time," Elena said. "But legally, no. But you deprived me of my property. Officer, take her statement. And Captain Holloway's." Elena looked at Derek. He was staring at his shoes. "Captain," Elena said, "you're relieved of command. Permanently." Derek looked up, his face grey. "You can't do that. The Union protects pilots who follow procedure." Elena cut him off. "The Union does not protect captains who aid and abet the destruction of passenger property and allow their crew to harass customers based on appearance. I'll fight the Union, and I have deeper pockets than they do. You're grounded, Derek. Hand over your badge." Derek hesitated. He looked at Gavin. Gavin nodded solemnly. Slowly, Derek unclipped his ID badge. He handed it to Eleanor. "And you?" Eleanor turned to Jessica. Jessica was trembling so hard her teeth chattered. "Please, I need this job." "No," Elena said. "You needed this job. Past tense. What you need now is a lawyer. Hand over your badge and your vest." "My vest?" Jessica gasped. "Here on the tarmac." "You aren't Aurora crew anymore," Elena said. "You don't wear the uniform. Take it off." It was the ultimate humiliation. Under the gaze of the ground crew, the police and her former boss, Jessica, unzipped her navy blue vest with the gold wings. She handed it over, leaving her in a plain white blouse that was quickly getting soaked by the rain. "Get them out of my sight," Elena said to Gavin. "Escort them off the airport grounds. Revoke their security clearance immediately." As the police led a sobbing Jessica and a shell-shocked Derek away toward the terminal doors, Elena stood alone in the rain with Gavin. She looked down at the broken case. "Dr. Kingsley," Gavin said gently. "What about the acquisition? The press conference is scheduled for tomorrow in Zurich. Without the prototype." Eleanor wiped rain from her face. A new determination hardened her features. "The prototype is a setback," she said, "but the code is in my head. I can rebuild it. It will take 6 months, but I can do it." She looked up at the massive Boeing 737 looming above them. "But this," she gestured to the plane, "this airline is broken, and it's going to take a lot more than 6 months to fix. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to burn the rot out of this company if I have to fire every single person who thinks like Jessica Carmichael." She turned to Gavin. "Get me a conference room, and get me the entire Chicago staff roster. We're going to have a town hall meeting. Tonight." "Tonight?" Gavin asked. "It's 9 p.m. "Then order pizza," Elena said, grabbing the handle of her broken case. "Because nobody is sleeping until I know who else in this station thinks it's okay to treat people like trash." As they walked back toward the terminal, Elena's phone buzzed. It was a text from Robert Sterling, her lawyer. "Did you make it to Zurich? Board is asking for an ETA." Elena typed back, "Delayed. Had to take out the trash. Will arrive tomorrow. Prepare the severance packages. I'm going to need a lot of them." She hit send. The war for Aurora Airways had just begun. But Elena Kingsley had fired the first shot, and she hadn't missed. The conference room at O'Hare's Terminal 5 was usually reserved for celebrating retirement parties or boring safety audits. Tonight it felt like a courtroom. It was 11:30 p.m. The rain was still lashing against the floor-to-ceiling windows, providing a rhythmic, gloomy backdrop to the tension inside. The air conditioner hummed loudly, battling the smell of 50 pepperoni pizzas that Gavin Ross had ordered, which were currently growing cold and greasy in their boxes. 42 Aurora Airways employees sat in rows of plastic chairs. They were a mix of gate agents, baggage handlers, and junior flight attendants. Most looked terrified. Some looked annoyed. A few, the ones who knew they did their jobs well, looked curious. Eleanor Kingsley stood at the front of the room. She had changed out of her damp hoodie into a crisp black blazer that Gavin had managed to procure from the duty-free manager's personal stash. It didn't fit perfectly, but it gave her the silhouette of authority she needed. Next to her stood a whiteboard. On it, she had written one word in red marker: accountability. Elena scanned the room. She let the silence stretch for a full minute. She made eye contact with people until they looked away. "I know you all want to go home," Elena began, her voice low, but projecting clearly to the back of the room. "I know you're tired. I know you're wondering why the new owner of the airline is keeping you hostage at midnight on a Tuesday." She paced slowly to the left. 2 hours ago, I fired your captain and your flight service manager. They are currently being processed by the Chicago Police Department for destruction of property." A ripple of whispers broke out. Elena raised a hand, silencing them instantly. "They thought they were untouchable," she continued. "They thought that because they had seniority, and because I looked like a nobody, they could treat me with contempt. They cost this company $3 million in 9 seconds. She stopped pacing and leaned against the table. But here is the hard truth. They didn't act alone. A culture of arrogance doesn't grow in a vacuum. It requires water, it requires sunlight, and it requires enablers. Eleanor's eyes locked onto a woman in the second row, a woman with a blonde bob, currently chewing gum nervously. "Patricia," Eleanor said. The gate agent froze. She had hoped, prayed that Eleanor had forgotten her face in the chaos of the tarmac incident. "Me," Patricia squeaked. "Yes, you," Elena said pleasantly. "Please stand up." Patricia looked around for support, but her colleagues shifted away from her, creating a small island of isolation. Slowly she stood up. "Do you remember our interaction at the check-in desk?" Elena asked. I check in hundreds of people a day, Mom," Patricia stammered, crossing her arms defensively. "I can't recall every single one." "Let me refresh your memory," Elena said. She picked up a remote and pointed it at the TV screen mounted on the wall. Gavin had been busy. He had pulled the CCTV footage from the check-in counter. The video played. It showed Elena standing patiently while Patricia texted on her phone. It showed the elderly man asking for help. It showed Patricia rolling her eyes, tapping the microphone, and lying about a system update. The room went deadly quiet. The employees watched the screen, some wincing at the blatant rudeness. "System update," Elena quoted. "Patricia, I checked the server logs. There was no update. You were texting." It was a family emergency." Patricia lied. "Really?" Elena clicked a button. The video zoomed in. The resolution was grainy but clear enough to see the screen of Patricia's phone in the video. It was a TikTok video of a cat falling off a sofa. The room erupted in uncomfortable murmurs. Someone in the back snickered. "That," Elena pointed at the screen, "is not a family emergency. That is theft. You are stealing time from the company, and worse, you are stealing dignity from our customers." Patricia's face flushed a deep, blotchy red. "You can't do this. This is harassment. I have rights." "You have the right to do your job," Elena countered, her voice hardening. "And you failed. You judged me by my clothes. You treated that elderly man like a nuisance. You set the tone for the entire passenger experience before they even got to the gate. Jessica Carmichael was the bullet, Patricia, but you were the gun." Elena walked over to Gavin. "Give me her file." Gavin handed over a manila folder. Elena opened it. 3 customer complaints in the last month alone. Elena read. "Rude. Dismissive. Ate a sandwich while checking my passport. Patricia, you are a liability." Elena closed the folder with a snap. "You're fired, effective immediately. Your severance will be the legal minimum required by Illinois state law. Leave your badge on the chair and get out." Patricia gasped. You can't be serious. I've been here 6 years." "And you've been terrible for 6 years," Elena said. "Go." Patricia burst into tears, grabbed her purse, threw her badge on the floor, and ran out of the room. The door slammed behind her, echoing like a gunshot. Elena didn't watch her go. She turned back to the room. The atmosphere had shifted. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was awe. These employees had been working under incompetent management for years. They knew who the slackers were. They knew who made their lives harder. Seeing one of them held accountable was terrifying, but also strangely liberating. "Now," Elena said, her tone softening slightly, "I am not here to fire everyone. I am here to build something, but I cannot build on a rotten foundation." She walked to the whiteboard and uncapped the marker again. She wrote a number, $5,000. "I am offering a voluntary severance package right now," Elena announced. "If you hate this job, if you hate passengers, if you are only here to collect a paycheck and do the bare minimum, leave. Right now. Walk out that door and I will give you $5,000 cash, plus 2 months' pay. No questions asked, no bad references, just a clean break." The room buzzed. It was a generous offer. "But," Elena raised a finger, "if you stay, things change. If you stay, you are committing to a new standard. We will treat every passenger, whether they are wearing a tuxedo or a trash bag, like a guest in our own home. We will have 0 tolerance for bullying. We will work harder than any other airline at this airport." She looked at them, her eyes blazing with intensity. "So, who wants the money? Who wants to leave?" For a long moment, nobody moved. Then a young baggage handler in the back stood up. "I'll take it," he said honestly. "I hate the cold. I want to go back to school." "Done," Elena said. "Gavin, take his name. Good luck with school." 2 more people stood up. A gate agent who admitted she was burned out, and a ramp supervisor who didn't like the new tone. They left. 38 people remained. Elena looked at the survivors. She saw a young woman in the front row clutching her notepad. Her name tag read Sarah. "Sarah," Elena asked, "why are you staying? The money is good." Sarah stood up shakily. Because I love airplanes, ma'am, and I hated how Jessica treated people. I tried to report her once, and I got written up for insubordination. I want to work for an airline that actually cares." Elena smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had shown all night. "Good answer, Sarah. Gavin, make a note. Sarah is our new acting lead for Terminal 5 customer service. Give her a 20% raise." Sarah's jaw dropped. "Me, but I'm just a junior agent." "Not anymore," Elena said. "Competence matters more than seniority." Elena turned to the rest of the room. "We have a lot of work to do. My prototype is destroyed, which means I have to stay in Chicago for a few days to oversee the forensic data recovery. During that time, I will be working right here alongside you. We are going to retrain, we are going to rebrand, and we are going to prove to the world that Aurora Airways is not a joke." She grabbed a slice of cold pizza from the box on the table. "Now, eat. We have a 6 a.m. flight to prep for. And God help anyone who rolls their eyes at a passenger tomorrow." While Elena was rebuilding the morale of Terminal 5, Jessica Carmichael was sitting in a dimly lit bar 3 miles from the airport, plotting its destruction. She was on her 3rd vodka tonic. Her mascara was smeared, her hair was a mess, and she was still wearing the white blouse she had been humiliated in, though now it was stained with rain and alcohol. Across the booth sat Julian Cross. Julian was the kind of lawyer who advertised on the back of bus benches and on daytime TV slots between soap operas. He wore a suit that was too shiny, a watch that was too big, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He was known in Chicago legal circles as the Shark of Southside, not because he was a good predator, but because he fed on garbage. "Let me get this straight," Julian said, leaning in, smelling blood in the water. "She fired you publicly on the tarmac, in front of the police, and your subordinates." "Yes." Jessica slammed her glass down. "She humiliated me, Julian. She made me take off my vest. She acted like she was God or something. And all because of a suitcase. A stupid, cheap suitcase. And you say she claimed to own the airline? She does," Jessica spat. "I checked online. The news just broke. Elena Kingsley, some tech billionaire. She bought it this morning." Julian tapped his pen against his lips. "Billionaire. I like that word. Billionaires have insurance. Billionaires settle to make problems go away." "She said she's pressing charges for the bag," Jessica whimpered. "She says it was worth $3 million. Julian waved his hand dismissively. "Intimidation tactics. Unless she has an invoice for a flux capacitor in that bag, she can't prove the value. But we have something better." "We do." "Jessica, look at you," Julian said, gesturing to her disheveled state. "You are a victim. You are a hard-working single mother." "I'm not a single mother," Jessica corrected. "My husband is a plumber. For the purpose of this narrative, you are the primary breadwinner under extreme stress." Julian steamrolled over her. "You were confronted by an aggressive, erratic passenger who refused to follow federal safety regulations regarding baggage. You were fearful for the safety of the flight. And when you tried to enforce the rules, this billionaire tyrant used her wealth to crush you." Jessica blinked. She liked the sound of that. It sounded much better than, "I threw a bag because I was being a bully." "But I threw the bag," Jessica admitted. "There's video. Context is everything." Julian grinned. "Did the video show her pushing past you? Did it show her threatening tone? We can spin it. Stress-induced reaction to a security threat. But we need to move fast. We need to win the court of public opinion before she wins the court of law. Julian pulled out his phone. Did anyone else film it? A passenger? I think. Maybe the guy in 1A, Mr. Henderson. He's always on his iPad. Good. We'll find it. But first, we go on the offensive. Julian opened a notepad app. We are going to file a lawsuit tomorrow morning. Wrongful termination, intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation of character, and, let's throw in, hostile work environment for good measure. Can we really sue for that? We can sue for anything, Jessica, Julian said smoothly. The goal isn't to go to trial. The goal is to make enough noise that she writes you a check for $5 million just to shut you up. He paused, looking at her. But to do this, you have to be willing to play dirty. She's going to come at you with facts. We have to come at her with feelings. Are you ready to cry on camera? Jessica thought about Elena's cold, superior face. She thought about the way the other crew members had looked at her as she was led away. She thought about the Queen Bee status she had lost. A dark, vindictive fire lit up in her eyes. I'll cry, Jessica promised. I'll scream. I'll do whatever it takes. I want to see her burn. The next morning, 8 a.m. Elena was running on caffeine and adrenaline. She hadn't slept. She had spent the night in the IT server room of O'Hare, plugged into the blackened remains of the Project Ether core with a specialized forensic data cable. Gavin knocked on the glass door. He looked pale. Elena, you need to see this. Elena pulled her headphones off. Did we get the manifest data? No, Gavin said. It's the news. Channel 5. He held up his tablet. On the screen was a breaking news banner. Airline tyrant new CEO accused of assaulting crew. The video cut to a press conference on the steps of the courthouse. Julian Cross was standing there looking solemn in a dark suit. Next to him was Jessica. She was wearing a modest cardigan, no makeup, and looked like she hadn't slept in a week, which was true, but purely due to the vodka. My client, Julian was shouting into a cluster of microphones, was simply doing her job, protecting the safety of the passengers. And for that, she was verbally assaulted, physically intimidated, and then fired on the tarmac like a criminal by Ms. Kingsley. This is a classic case of the 1% thinking they can treat working-class people like garbage. Jessica stepped up to the mic. She wiped a tear away. I just wanted everyone to be safe. Jessica sobbed, her voice cracking perfectly. She was so scary. She told me she owned me. Who says that to another human being? Elena stared at the screen. Her mouth went dry. They edited it, Elena whispered. She left out the part where she destroyed my property. She left out the bullying. It's trending, Gavin said, swiping to Twitter. Next boycott Aurora is #1. People are calling you the Karen CEO. Elena felt a surge of rage. She had the truth on her side, but the truth was slow. Lies were fast. Get Robert on the phone, Elena said, standing up and ripping the data cable out of the core. And get the security footage ready to release. We can't, Gavin said grimly. Legal says we can't release the CCTV footage of an employee without their consent or a court order, because it's a personnel matter now that she's sued. It could take weeks to unseal it. Elena slammed her hand on the desk. She's playing the victim, Eleanor realized. She's weaponizing the very power dynamic she abused. What do we do? Gavin asked. Eleanor looked at the shattered prototype. She looked at the tablet showing Jessica's fake tears. She wants a war, Elena said, her eyes turning cold as steel. She wants to talk about safety. Fine, let's talk about safety. Elena grabbed her jacket. Gavin, find me the maintenance logs for every flight Jessica Carmichael has worked in the last 5 years. Every safety violation, every skipped check, every report she ever signed. What are you looking for? I'm looking for the skeletons in her closet, Elena said, because people like Jessica don't just break suitcases. They break rules, and I'm going to find the one rule she broke that sends her to prison, not just to court. The break room clock ticked past 3:00 a.m. Elena's eyes were burning, but her focus remained razor sharp. On the screen in front of her were 2 digital windows, the Federal Aviation Administration FAA mandated cabin safety logs and the airport's employee security gate access logs. Gavin, Elena, said, her voice barely a whisper. Look at Flight 902 from 3 months ago. Chicago to Miami. Gavin leaned in, squinting at the spreadsheet. What about it? Jessica signed the pre-flight emergency equipment check at 06:45 a.m. Elena pointed to the digital signature on the left screen. She certified that she checked every fire extinguisher, oxygen bottle, and life vest on the aircraft. Okay, Gavin shrugged. Standard procedure. Now look at the gate logs. Elena tapped the right screen. Gavin looked. Carmichael Jessica. Badge swipe. Employee Lot Tibe, 07. 12 a.m. Gavin gasped. She wasn't even in the building. Exactly, Elena said, her eyes cold. She pencil-whipped the safety check. She signed a federal document certifying the plane was safe while she was likely still sitting in her car drinking coffee. This isn't just negligence, Gavin. It's a federal felony. Falsifying maintenance records. Elena began cross-referencing. It wasn't just one flight, it was dozens. Jessica had made a habit of arriving late and digitally signing the checks early to cover her tracks. She had been flying hundreds of passengers on unchecked aircraft for years, banking on luck. We have her, Elena said, standing up. Print it, all of it, and call Detective O'Malley back. Tell him we're not talking about luggage anymore. We're talking about fraud. 2 hours later, the hard karma arrived. Jessica was in the middle of a follow-up interview with a local news crew standing outside her lawyer's office, looking tragic and wronged. I just want justice, Jessica was saying to the camera. I want Miss Kingsley to admit she was wrong. She didn't see the 2 FBI agents approaching until they were in the frame. Jessica Carmichael. The lead agent asked, flashing a badge. Yes. Jessica looked confused. You are under arrest for violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 1001, falsifying federal safety records and endangering a commercial aircraft. The camera crew didn't cut the feed. They zoomed in. Jessica's face went white. What, no, Julian? She turned to her lawyer, but Julian Cross had already taken a step back, distancing himself from a federal crime. As the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, the same wrists that had tossed Elena's prototype off a bridge, Jessica looked directly into the camera. She didn't see sympathy anymore. She saw the end. Elena Kingsley watched the live feed from her office in Terminal 5. She took a sip of coffee, picked up her phone, and texted her board of directors, "The rot is gone. We fly at dawn." In the end, wealth didn't save Elena. Kingsley integrity did. Jessica Carmichael thought she was fighting a nobody in a hoodie, but she was really fighting the consequences of her own arrogance. She learned the hard way that you can fake a smile, but you can't fake a time stamp. Jessica is currently serving 3 years in a federal facility, and Aurora Airways is now rated number 1 for customer satisfaction. What would you have done if you were Elena? Would you have fired her on the spot or let the police handle it? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of massive karma, please smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story We post new revenge dramas every week. Thanks for watching. And remember, be kind, because you never know who you're talking to. See you in the next video.